Okay, hi everybody. At our schools, we are talking wetlands. So when we're talking about wetlands, we are talking about land that is wet. So here we are at Crystal Lake, and we're going to be thinking about things that occur at a wetland. And before we can go down and do some bug dipping, which we'll do in a minute, and that'll be pretty cool, we need to know there's two kinds of things. There's producers, which make their own food, right? They produce it, so they need sunlight, soil, water, and they use a process called photosynthesis. And the other thing, if you're not a producer making your own food, then that means you must need to eat something else. You could be a consumer. You eat things to get energy, and that could be herbivores like cows and horses, or carnivores like bears and lions, or omnivores like people. So if we look around here, Brooke and Aaron, do you see anything that you think could be a producer? What do you think?
Trees?
Trees are producers, that's right, because they have leaves for photosynthesis. Brooke, do you think there's anything else that's a producer?
No.
Well, you'd be wrong, because over there's grass, and there's over here some flowers, and they all produce their own food. Now, what about a consumer? Do we see any consumers around?
Yep, you.
Me, that's right, I'm a consumer, and Brooke's a consumer, and that bird that just flew by was a consumer, and that mosquito wants to consume me, so it's a consumer too. All right, so we're going to go down and take a look at the dock and the wetland. So this is Crystal Lake, which is in fact not even a lake. Lakes need to have water coming in and out, and Crystal Lake doesn't. So it's more like crystal drainage pit. Okay, so we talked before last week about a food chain. A food chain has to start with a producer because that gets its energy from the sun. So it makes its own food. So earlier, if we're thinking about a wetland ecosystem and a wetland food chain, well, it's going to have to start with some kind of producer as well. So what kind of plant grows in the water? Maybe something like seaweed, which would be perfect if the wetland was the ocean. So that's good. But we're going to think today about algae. So algae would come first. That's that stuff that grows in there. It looks like the slimy stuff, a bit like seaweed. Yeah. Now what might eat the algae? Well, some kind of insect that we're going to find today. So I for insect, it would be eating the algae and getting the energy. So the energy went from algae into the insect. And who might eat an insect, Brooke?
A bird?
A bird, sure. A bird might eat an insect. Okay, but in our case, we're going to start with something with an F. So it could be a fish, it could be a frog, both of which live in the ecosystem. And then another consumer would eat the frog. That might be where we might have a bird, might eat the frog or the fish. So it goes algae, insect, fish, bird. Producer, consumer, consumer, consumer. And that's how the food chains work. So let's go down and see if we can find in Crystal Lake some of these insects. Okay, so today we're going to go bug dipping. And here is what we could find. So the things on top are the things that we could dip out of the Crystal Lake today. The dragonfly nymph, the stonefly nymph, the caddisfly larva, the mosquito larva, or the whirling larva, and beneath them are what they turn into. So whirling beetle is quite a big beetle. There's mosquito, we know them, they're biting us all the time. The caddisfly, stonefly, and the dragonfly. Now the coolest one I hope we can find today is the caddisfly larva, because they protect themselves by hiding inside hollow tubes, like little pieces of reed. They get hidden down inside there. And the whirling larva is pretty cool too. They attack and eat the other stuff, so they're kind of aggressive. So maybe we'll see them eating somebody. In addition to this, we might see freshwater shrimp, some water boatmen, water skaters. So we'll see what we can find. Now to go bug dipping, we've got our toolkit today. So Brooke over here has got a bug dipper, which is our strainer and a broomstick, so we'll be able to scoop them out. And over here, Aaron has more of a net, like a butterfly net. We'll see which of these two things is more effective. And Mrs. Baker has a bucket and some spoons inside so that we can take our little beasties as we catch them and look at them more closely. So let's go dipping and see what we can find. Okay, so here we go. We are going down to Crystal Lake, which remember is not in fact actually a lake. Now remember, it needs a source of water in and a source of water out. So you're wondering, hey, if this is Crystal Lake and there's water in it, because we can see all the water out there and all the water out there. Well, where does the water come from? So most likely places that the water would have come from, snow melt, precipitation like rain, that's where it would drain into here. So in our Crystal Lake, we can see that there's reeds over here. Out in the lake, if we're lucky, we might see the swans. There's a pair of swans that live here. And this is not a deep lake at all. Deepest point in Crystal Lake is only about 6 feet deep, which is 1 Mr. Baker tall. So as we continue to look around our ecosystem, there goes a mother duck with quite a number of little baby ducklings. 8 ducklings. You can hear the black-winged blackbirds over in that part. Red-winged blackbirds, yes. Make sure you talk proper. Over here we can see some different ducks. So there's quite a number of species of ducks. So there's some over there. There they are swimming off in the distance. Over here a different family of ducks. And here in the reeds is where we've been seeing the red-winged blackbirds. Now they're consumers. We just saw them consuming.
Yeah.
All right. Kids that are at school children. It's a little fuzzy, but out there is a trumpeter swan. So they know this is the Swan City. That would be why. There's a pair of them that live in here, and they come back to the same nesting area every year. So let's get ready for this. Oh yeah, there is a ducky brook. That's right. He's got a green head, so that's a mallard duck. And the girls seem to think they found something. And it looks like, I think it could be a freshwater swim. So we're going to start dipping. And then when we've got some stuff to look at, we'll make the next piece of our video.
All right, here we are, Crystal Lake, and these are all the things that we're able to find.
So we've caught some different things in our dipping in different spots. So right here on the spoon is we have a larva who's just about ready to turn into a damselfly. So this one is very close to becoming a damselfly. And if we look over here at this one that Brooke has, with the 2 parts on the back, this is also an earlier stage of the guy that we have right here. So this one's just about ready to fly away, because you can see his wings are all fully developed, and the one that Brooke has over there isn't. So let that guy there, he can sort out what he wants to do with his life. All right, so there's a difference. Sometimes we get damselflies and sometimes we get dragonflies. And there's some differences between the 2 of them that we'll talk about here in just a second. So let's find the things that are easier than dragonflies and damselflies to start off with. So, oh, look, there's one right there. That's a caddisfly larva over there, and that stick that looks like it's just a stick on the bottom. So my favorite one to find is that one. So let's start with some of the easier people that we have.
We did find one.
We did, you're
There's
right.
2 guys on top of him,
We
though.
sure did. All right.
See?
So the dragonfly nymph and the damselfly nymph look different. So the ones that look like they have the 3 pieces on the back are our damselfly nymphs. So over here, there's one swimming up that Brooke is just getting. So let's see if we can get him up. All right, so here, the most common thing we found today is the freshwater shrimp. They come in different colors. There's males and females. So
What's this one?
that is a freshwater shrimp. Some people in other places call that a scud. That's what they're called in other places in the world. We call it a freshwater shrimp over here.
Okay, put it back in so he gets his water.
Okay. We have quite a number of them in there. In addition to that, we also have over here a freshwater snail. So
It's covered in green
So
stuff.
if you just pick him up and hold him there, he'll come out of his piece. All right, so
Shell.
his shell, yeah, he'll come out and see us. So over here, we have a dragonfly nymph, which is right down here. All
Can
right,
you grab the other
so
snail?
this
This guy
dragonfly
doesn't
nymph.
seem like he doesn't want to come out.
Well, let's just
Just
give
leave,
him,
keep
let's
him
just
kind
give
of
him
still,
still.
we'll see.
All right, so here's a dragonfly nymph. So this one will turn out to grow up and be a dragonfly.
And you
if he
got
does his
something on the
job
other
well,
side.
he is going to eat all kinds of mosquitoes. So he's great. We're going to
And
let
there's
him
a
be free.
mosquito guy on the other side.
Now, the coolest
You
one
just
of all
dropped
to
the mosquito
catch,
guy.
of everything you can catch in here, in my opinion, is called the caddisfly larva.
He's
Now,
over here.
these ones that are caddisfly larvae, here's one right here. These guys like to hide And you think, hey, that's a stick. That's just a stick, Mr. Baker. You found a stick. But hidden inside this stick is a caddisfly larva. Look, he's just starting to peek his head out a little bit. Can you see him, Brooke? See how his antennas are coming out?
Yeah.
So if you put him in the
This
water,
guy still
you'll
hasn't
see that he
came
can swim.
out.
So we did catch a cat. See, there he goes.
Cool.
He came out and peeked. We've got some dragonfly ones over here, and some shrimp, and all kinds of water fleas, all these little things. So this would be the bottom of the food chain over here. And sometimes you'll see them attacking one another because it's all part of the circle of life,
shrimp?
the food chain.
A snail.
A snail? Good one.
Also, there's quite a big nymph in here, so this guy would be coming closer. Do you remember how that one we saw earlier that actually had his wings? This guy is actually starting to develop his wings. You can see them starting to come out on his back. See? Hold on, Rookie. There he is. Look, so they're actually getting ready to sprout his wings right out of the back of him there. So he's very close.
Okay.
And the little
Cute.
green guys are
Like-
earlier on.
Oh,
Froman.
cool.
All right, see you later, buddy.
He's swimming around.
All right, and over here, there's a shrimp getting eaten right now by another larva. Oh, he was attacking him. You just let him go. So
Let's take
all the
you out.
different animals are adapted to life in the wetlands. So these guys are going to be these insects. This is their earlier stage,
Do
their
these
larva
turn into
stage,
normal
and then they're going to
shrimps?
turn into other insects like dragonflies and damselflies and things that fly around, or caddisflies. The shrimp, they're going to stay in the water. They're not going
So
to
the
turn into an
wetlands is
insect.
pretty important for these guys then, right? It's their home for the first part of their life.
Right, so it makes an ecosystem. So we need it.
Let's see, don't turn into
Gives a habitat. He's a snail. He's going to go into a bigger snail.
Oh.
Yeah, look at that. There's a caddisfly right there. Look. See him? So we didn't think we had one. We did. See how they hide in there? That's what makes them cool.
Probably why I didn't realize I had one.
You see it there? Look, he's all the way out now. See? And the bigger they get, they're like a hermit crab. So as they grow,
They have to get bigger sticks.
they get bigger sticks. Yeah.
Very cool.
Okay, so we remember there's multiple kinds of wetlands you might find in northern Alberta. You might find like a marsh, you might find a bog, there's swamps around, there's another wetland known as a fen. If we look at this wetland out here, we'll notice that it's wet. That's why it's called a wetland. The water's coming right up here close to us, but it's full of grass. So if this had been a bog, it would have been like full of moss and stuff. And if it was a swamp, it'd be full of trees, but I see trees around the outside, but if you look in the middle, all that's out there is grasses. So this is a marsh. We might find tadpoles, frogs, lots of insect larvae. There's heaps of mosquitoes around here causing some trouble. Moose like it in a marsh. So you might see a moose. They like to eat the plants that are growing in here. And the marsh. So we're back at school now. We saw the bug dipping. We saw that all the different animals are adapted in different ways for life in the wetland, whether they have gills and those ducks that had the webbed feet, beavers, they have webbed feet too. So it's an important part of our environment because we need the wetland for not just a habitat, which thought it is today a habitat, but it's also a way that we avoid flooding because they act like a giant sponge. They like suck up the water. So if there was too much rainfall, the wetland would absorb it. And they also work a bit like a giant Brita filter where the bacteria that live inside the wetland help purify the water. So things like runoff, fertilizer, that type of thing. If they end up in the wetland, particularly swamps, marshes, bogs, they can purify the water. So I hope you guys enjoyed our virtual trip to the wetland. We weren't able to go bug dipping like on a normal year, but it's something you can do yourself, easy to do. Just be safe, get a strainer, stick, and somebody make sure that you're safe and enjoy.